all the way up until kickoff throughout the game, and then we'll have post-match reaction as well. As ever, all of you get involved sitting at home watching the Foxes. Do get involved with the show. To the second edition of City on the Sofa, and it's the first game back at King Power Stadium for Leicester City since the resumption of the Premier League. I'm Dan Bates, and joining me in the studio as he did on Saturday is Steve Walsh. Gerry Taggart has made a substitution with Matt Elliott. Matt Elliott is on LCFC radio commentary, and joining us via his home in Essex is Tony Cottee. Good afternoon, gents.
Good afternoon, Dan.
Good evening.
Afternoon.
How are you, Tony?
Yeah, very good, Dan. Thanks. Yeah, just really excited that the football season's back and we've got football to talk about. It seems like it's been a long 3 months, but thoroughly enjoyed the games at the weekend and looking forward to a good game tonight.
Gerry, you were, of course, at Vicarage Road on Saturday for that 1-1 draw. It seemed as though Leicester had stolen it right at the end, hadn't they, with that fantastic Ben Chilwell strike, but Watford just coming up the other end and equalising then. How disappointing do you think Leicester will have been with that?
Yeah, I think obviously, given the way the game panned out, I think both teams were well worth the point. But as you said, when you go 1-0 ahead, in the 90th minute, and you're just unable to, to see the game through and not nick all the 3 points, but, grab the 3 points right at the death of the game, and you don't come away with them, then obviously there's going to be a tinge of disappointment there, without a shadow of a doubt.
And Walsh, you're back with us again. You've got the call up again for today's game with Brighton. How do you see it going this evening?
Well, first of all, this game, it's huge. You look at all the games over the weekend, and you've got to look at over your shoulder slightly. I don't like to do that as a footballer in this position, but Man United and Wolves are not giving up. That's for sure. Wolves, they worry me more than Man United do at the moment. But tonight, this is an opportunity for Leicester to really put one foot in that Champions League for me. I think this is how big this game is tonight. You can extend the gap with points. It's always difficult chasing people when you can win a game and get 3 points under your belt from unlucky at the weekend from the way we played. I think that if we can cut out just a few little errors and but certainly our fitness looked really strong. I think Watford struggled to get out of their own half in the second half. So it was overall it was a good performance and nearly 3 points only for that like I say desperate Watford last ditch goal, which really sickened us all, to be honest with you. I couldn't even have a drink after. It was that bad, TC. How are you, Tom? Anyway, you're all right, mate, down in Essex. That's how big I think this game is. Sorry.
I think I don't think the fans would always appreciate just how difficult it is for the players, because I think in previous years gone past, you would have your 6-7 week pre-season where you have time off. And then you go back and you then have 3 or 4 weeks where you blast it out and you play 4 or 5 pre-season games. And none of the players have had that. And, which makes it very difficult for the players in terms of fitness, in terms of, getting back into the swing of things. And I suppose the saving grace is it's the same for everyone. But I've got to say, watching that game at the weekend, I felt Leicester's fitness was excellent. Yes, Watford had a few chances, but I think in general they had the bulk of the possession. They had, some excellent chances. Jamie could have got his 100th goal as well, and there was a real lot of good positives for the manager to take out of that game. And as Wilson said, such a shame because those 3 points make such a difference. And we've been there before, us as players. It's absolutely gutting when you concede in that injury time. It's absolutely gutting, and you've lost 2 points, and that could make a big difference.
Just as the game with Watford was on Saturday, you can hear all of the action tonight on LCFC Radio with our commentary team of Chris Parrott and Matt Elliott. You can watch us on City on the Sofa, take you all the way up until kick-off throughout the game, half-time and post-match reaction as well. And as ever, this show is about you and the audience at home and all those Leicester City fans who are following the Foxes. Please do send in your thoughts, your pictures and your videos and predictions from being at home. We can take a look now at some of the best fan predictions that we've been sent in.
Hey guys, it's Jason here from New York. Tonight I'm going for a classic 2-0 win for Leicester over Brighton.
Hey there folks, this is Amit from the good old US of A. Leicester versus Brighton, I think it's going to be 2-0 to the Foxes.
So I was at the Amex early season where we managed to beat Brighton 2-0 thanks to goals from Jose Perez and a Jamie Vardy penalty. I remember on that day, Jamie Vardy caused Brighton an absolute nightmare on the counter-attack, so I'm predicting he's going to do the same again today and even bag his 100th Premier League goal. So my match prediction is 2-0 to Leicester. Come on, you Foxes!
For sending all of those in. Please do keep doing so here to our social media channels. Gerry, you were just watching along to a couple of those. Obviously, the Leicester fans seeming very confident ahead of the game this evening.
Yeah, and so they should be. I think the last fan that just came in there, I think he's got a really good point about, when Leicester played Brighton away. I was at the game, I think I remember, and Leicester, Brighton played some really good football, controlled the game as such, but couldn't really find any way through that solid Leicester defence. And again, Jamie Vardy on the counter-attack that day was phenomenal. And there's no reason why the same thing, can't happen today. And I think everybody's got their fingers crossed for Jamie as well to make sure that he does get that 100th goal. And I'm sure Jamie himself would be telling himself that tonight is the night that the dream ticket comes through for him.
We saw, Tony, a few of those fans over in the USA cheering on the Foxes, as they always do. I suppose they're used to watching the side on the television, aren't they, rather than being here at the ground. But for those fans that would normally be here at King Power Stadium, how different do you think it'll be for those watching along at home?
Everyone's obviously frustrated, Dan, with the situation in terms of not being able to go to the games because, I think, I was a mad supporter myself as a kid, and I just remember going to the game, really enjoying that. And then when you become a player, you almost sometimes forget just how passionate the fans are, how much they love being at the ground, how much it makes their week, and how much it can also make a big difference to their week if they lose the game. The fans across the whole of the Premier League, and the Leicester fans are fantastic fans. They're really dedicated towards that football club, and they'll be frustrated that they can't be at the game time. We all understand why, and we don't need to go into that. It is what it is, and we've got to get on with it. But I think everyone's done such a great job to work really, really hard to make sure everywhere's safe for the players and the officials and the staff and everyone, just to put on a show. And get the Premier League back on track, and the Leicester fans, they'll be tuning in tonight and they'll be cheering the team on. And yes, they're frustrated they can't be at the ground, but they'll still be at home and everyone will be cheering on, watching their telly, and hopefully getting the 3 points.
Well, as part of the Then, Now, Again campaign, the club here have sent fans, season ticket holders and members a pack full of goodies so they can replicate that King Power Stadium atmosphere from home. We can take a look at some of your best fan setups right now. This has come from Sweden there, so one of Leicester's best fans, I'm sure there. Another good setup there from Chris Siddall. He says, brilliant from LCFC, got my clapper and flag ready for tonight's game. So best of luck, Chris. We hope that the Foxes on the pitch can replicate your support. Molly C says she's got a free clapper and her flag to watch LCFC. She's going to watch City on the Sofa as well with her mum and dad this evening. Andy Needham says, class act, best club in the world, LCFC. He's delighted with what's been sent through. So, Walshy, we're seeing here that the club have sent through all these packs of goodies for those fans that normally would be here at King Power Stadium, but they're having to watch from home.
Yeah, it's difficult, but it's the best we can do at the moment, under the circumstances. It's great what this football club do, and they have done since these new owners have come in. It's just phenomenal what just the little touches what they do, like me and Gerry, Matty now, we do a lot in the community. We see a lot what's happening and how much money they put into local charities around Leicestershire. It's just great, and it makes this club very unique in a sense of The fans are the ones that they certainly look after. The team as a whole. That every staff member, you know, they're so nice people that there's a great atmosphere all around the club, and it makes all for a happy club, and it's showing on the pitch as well. You know, you've got the right manager. With the right structure now in the club, you see the training ground being built. It's happy days here in Leicester.
Well, do keep sending your pictures, thoughts and videos into us here using the hashtag LCFC, so we'll get some of the best ones shown on screen here on City on the Sofa. Gerry, as I asked Tony before, for those fans that normally would be here at King Power Stadium, I know an awful lot of those probably haven't missed a game in years as well, so it is such a big difference for them, isn't it? But to be given these packs and to really try and replicate that atmosphere at home is so important. Yeah,
without a doubt. I think it just sort of brings home the importance, you know, of having fans in a stadium while you're playing football. There is no shadow of a doubt about that. And I think moving forward, I exclude Leicester City because they're at the forefront of putting fans first. I have to say that. For me, this club is the benchmark for supporters. But I think the importance of having fans will not be lost on anyone through this pandemic. And I think coming out the other side, and if things can possibly get better for them, then I think clubs should, you know, make that a priority in their matchday experience. Because without the fans, then we're just watching a game. With the fans, it turns into something completely different. It's like an opera, a ballet, you know, a drama, you know, you name it. That's what football is, with fans in the stadium. Without it, we're just watching a game.
I'll tell you what, Gerry, on the pitch, I couldn't imagine TC, you know, playing in these circumstances either. You know, I like I said on Saturday, I needed a crowd to get me to react, and just things happen in a game, and they fueled the fight. It was just brilliant. You know, they spurred you on if you were down, and it must be so difficult to, you know, just go and play in these circumstances as a player.
Well, before we get the...
I agree, Walsh. I mean, I go back to my early days as a player, and, you know, the old reserve leagues that we used to play in, and, you know, but that I was coming through as a kid, an enthusiastic kid who was playing against, you know, big, strong defenders, and you know, playing for West Ham at Upton Park, empty stadium, of course, you know, no fans there apart from a few like mums and dads sitting in the crowd, and that was it. So, you know, that's my only experience of that. But I didn't play any behind closed doors football as a professional. Then, as you quite rightly say, both of you, you know, once you get the bug as a player, once you start performing in the first team, and, you know, there is the adrenaline and the adulation you get, you know, the thrill of scoring a goal for your football club and winning a game, and you're coming off at the end and the fans are clapping you off. And, you know, I agree, you know, football without fans, you know, if anything good can come out of this pandemic is, like, you know, appreciate the fans a little bit more. As I agree with Tags, I don't think it quite applies to Leicester so much, because I think they're fantastic the way they look after their fans. But there's probably many clubs out there who just take their fans for granted. And I think across the board, I think, you know, we should be more appreciative of the effort that the fans make, and the cost as well, because, you know, sometimes they're paying enormous amounts of money to follow their team, and they, you know, sometimes they don't get treated as well as they should. Let's hope that changes going forward.
Before we take a look at tonight's teams for the game between Leicester and Brighton, Gerry, just on that point, you and Walsh, obviously, in Filbert Street, of course, TC as well, you really played off the crowd, didn't you? And it must have been such a huge part of your game as well. If you made a really good tackle, surely hearing the adulation from the crowd must make you play even better, try even harder, run even quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And it just sort of shows with, you know, obviously I was at the game on Saturday at Watford. And there was once or twice, I have to admit, I drifted off in the... You know,
oh, asleep, was it?
Well, I didn't fall asleep, but my mind was wandering. It really was. And that never happens when the crowd, because they're the ones that keep you on your toes. Because they're the ones that, you know, are engrossed in the game and the action. And they let you know with their voices. And so that's why it's vitally important that, you know, as I've said before, and Tony's just mentioned again, that, you know, the matchday experience, it, you know, culminates when the referee blows his whistle at the beginning of the game and at the end of the game. And in between that, it is just, you know, true drama that unfolds in a game. And that should not be forgotten.
You know, the other thing is there's so many grounds that we've played in that we know it's intimidating. It's difficult to play against. You know, Anfield, West Ham in the old days, Newcastle, you know, Arsenal, small, you know, they were intimidating. And even the King Power Stadium's got to become such a difficult place for away teams to come and get a result because of the crowd. You know, the influence games, Liverpool, you know, you see them the other day and they didn't look anything without out their, you know, I know it was away to Everton, wasn't it? But, you know, it's just not the same, and it just can't, you know, I just can't imagine how a player can really pump himself up and focus and just get the best out of you. I don't see it, but you know, it's unprecedented times, as we know. We've got to get on with it, and it's just great to be back. I'm so glad that I'm here, you know, just following the games and following the team again, and at least we've got something back, and hopefully as soon as we can, everything's back to normal.
Tony, going off the fans.
Sorry, Danny. It's a true test of the players' dedication and professionalism, I think. You know, and also as well, I think what's important in these circumstances is having a good manager. You know, us three, we was very lucky to play under the inspiration that was Martin O'Neill, when he would have you pumped up. And I'm sure whether there was a crowd or no crowd, we would have been pumped up going out to play for Martin O'Neill. And, you know, I honestly believe that Brendan Rodgers, without putting him on the same level because they're different managers, but, you know, I honestly believe that he will get into the players, he will get them, you know, well prepared and looking forward to the game. But then once the players get out there, they've got to be really professional, and, you know, you can't afford to be distracted, you can't afford to switch off, because as we know, if you have one or two players who drift off and don't perform, you get beat, you get turned over. You need all 11 players performing, and that's hopefully what the boys will do tonight.
Tony, one thing that we've seen since the resumption of the Premier League is once a half that there's the drinks break, and for some games I think has been frowned upon a little bit, but for those of you obviously watching at home, you could be watching in your gardens. It's an absolutely glorious day here in Leicester today. It's very hot, the sun's beating down on that King Power Stadium turf, and for those players, Tony, that haven't played football in 3 months, the drinks break probably today will be something that will benefit them.
I think that, I'm very critical of the football authorities sometimes, Dan. I don't think they take things into account. They don't think of the players. They don't think of the fans. There's all sorts of things over the years that we could all moan about. I think they've actually got this one right. I think, you know, we're playing in June and July, 2 very hot months. We've had incredible weather, haven't we, in the UK? And, you know, I think the drinks break is certainly going to be welcomed by every player over the next 3 or 4 days as we go into this really hot spell. So that's really, really important. And also the substitutions as well, you know, allowing 5 substitutions. It makes sense. You know, as I said earlier, these players, they haven't got the games under their belt. They're not ready for 90 minutes of football. And yet we're asking them to perform and play 90 minutes. And yeah, of course, you've got some players who are going to play all the games and they're probably slightly more fitter than others. But I think the drinks break and the substitutions is a welcome addition. Yeah, whether that will continue next year, I don't think the drinks break will, but the 5 substitutions possibly might. You know, I think it's been a good idea.
Well, Gerry, we didn't see all 5 substitutions, did we, for Leicester on Saturday? We only saw 3 of them. Were you surprised by that?
Not really. There's different, you know, obviously 3 subs is the norm, isn't it, in Premier League games? So I think there's obviously a lot of tactical game playing goes on whether or not a manager uses all 5 subs. If it's 4-5-0, then maybe a manager might want to, give somebody a run out. But you wouldn't change. In a game that was that tight against Watford, there's no reason to change that many subs because it breaks the play up. You know, sometimes it takes players longer than others to get into a game. And when it's a really tight game like that, then you don't want to try and break the play up, the style of play, the tempo of the play, because sometimes by making that many subs, everything just goes to pot. So there's a lot of tactical reasons why Brendan probably didn't make those 5 subs.
Well, let's have a look then at the teams, the starting 11 and the substitutes for Leicester City this evening at King Power Stadium. Kasper Schmeichel is in goal. It's the same back 4 that played at Vicarage Road of James Justin, Johnny Evans, Kaglar Soyuncu and Ben Chilwell. It's a midfield 3, we think, of Wilfred Ndidi, James Maddison and Papi Mendy, with Kelechi Iheanacho and Demarai Gray supporting Jamie Vardy. The substitutes: Danny Ward, Wes Morgan, Demarai Gray, Yuri Tielemans, Mark Albrighton, Jose Perez, Hamza Chowdhury, Harvey Barnes and Christian Fuchs. Just looking at that starting 11 and subs, Walshy, what are your first thoughts?
Yeah, I actually thought he'd make a couple of changes. You know, I mean, like we've just been talking about the demands of the Premier League and the way we've come back and had time to prepare. Makes it difficult. It's almost three games in a week we're playing right to the end of the season. So looking at his lineup, you know, the back four speaks for itself. I think there was no doubt with that. You know, but still, you know, you look at Demarai Gray's performance when he came on. He certainly changed the game in a sense. Watford looked really, really tired, and he put them on the back foot. They just couldn't get out. And if Demarai Gray can just set his sights on, you know, being direct and getting at teams, then he's a player. You know, for me, he's got to do more than what he's been doing, and he's got the talent, he's got everything, and he showed it in glimpses. You know, on Saturday, Iheanacho and Vardy. Obviously, Vardy was a little bit isolated, I felt, at Watford, but again, you know, I think Brendan's thought, well, let's give him some support now. Let's go and have a go. We're playing at home. This is a massive game to win, and if we can, you know, get Brighton on their back foot and get chances, create shots and crosses, and we've got a great chance of, you know, a big 3 points tonight. I think it's just such a vital game, this one, for some reason. I've just, you know, and I like to think, like I said before, that that gap is going to widen, and then it's difficult when you're talking 8 points gap. It could go to 11, it could go back to 8 again quickly. So it's an important game this tonight.
Well, as I've said, this show is all about you sitting at home, watching along and supporting the Foxes. So we've asked you a poll. We've asked you how you're feeling ahead of the game this evening with Brighton and Hove Albion. So do get your answers in for our poll there. Most of you, over half of you, looking very excited. 25% of you looking a little bit nervous, maybe still happy. 21% of you don't look too happy, Tony. I don't know if you can see that poll there, but do you agree with that? Do you think that goes along with what the Foxes fans at home are thinking?
I can't see the poll, to be honest.
That's fine. So, well, over half of the fans are very confident.
I'm confident with Leicester tonight. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think Brighton have made a few changes as well, looking at the teams that are in. And, you know, they've got some dangerous players. You know, they're in the position they're in because they've not been good enough at times this year. You know, there have been some decent performances. I think it's important to remember they beat Arsenal, albeit a not particularly good Arsenal team at the moment, but it was still a really good result. And they was fighting right to the end, you know, and got their goal in injury time to win the match. So, you know, they're not going to come here and roll over. No team ever does that in the Premier League. It's going to be a really, really tough game tonight, I think, for Leicester, you know, because Brighton are fighting for their lives. But having said that, I look at the two team sheets, I see better players for Leicester, and I'm confident they'll win the game.
Gerry, do you agree with the poll that we saw? Is it fair that there are some Leicester fans out there feeling a little bit nervous ahead of this one, particularly after conceding that late goal against Watford? Yeah,
it goes without saying. That's just human nature, isn't it? But I think if you asked us three, I think you get you know, a unanimous decision. Why there's no reason why Leicester don't go into this game confident of getting all 3 points. For me, I'm not saying it's a foregone conclusion, but I strongly fancy Leicester to get back to winning ways. Yeah, yes, they did concede a goal later on from a set piece. Brighton scored a goal from a set piece against Arsenal, so there is a bit of concern there. But in saying that, you know, I can't see any way through for Brighton going forward. I think the defence looked really solid on Saturday with Johnny Evans and Soyuncu at the heart of it. Casper, you know, did what he had to do when called upon. And as I said before, it's only a matter of time, you know, before Jamie Vardy breaks his 100, you know, Premier League goal duck, let's call it. And so, I think there's no real reason why anyone should feel anything other than confident.
No, I mean, you know what, Gerry, I'm positive. I mean, you look at the game, and it was good that they were dejected after the game. I think that's a good sign. You know, I think Brighton are going to have to work very, very hard against this Leicester team because, not just the fitness, but the ball retention. To get the ball back off Leicester is we looked at and analysed these players. They're very technically gifted players who keep the ball all the time. It's not many times that we give it away. When we do, we made a couple of errors. One with Ndidi early, that created a chance for Watford. But I'll tell you what, Brighton have got to work so hard tonight. They did it against Arsenal, so can they do it again? Are their fitness levels as good as ours? I don't know until we see. There'll be a little bit of fatigue and tiredness, but it's just one of them games where I'm really, positive, and I think that Brendan will give them the right mentality to be positive and go forward and really get at Brighton. They've got freedom tonight to really get at this team and show them what we're about.
Well, Walsh there was speaking about taking the positives from that draw with Watford on Saturday. Let's have a look back at the highlights from that game.
On this occasion, he just looked up at Jamie. Jamie's wanting to play blind, wanting the ball to be played blind by Brighton. Brighton has a little look up. He's offside.
Well, high ball over top here has been missed by Cavaselli. Now Vardy's onto it down the left-hand side, comes inside, Jamie Vardy, edge of the D, Vardy will go for goal, and it flies just past the far post. Vardy only needed a sight there to ping that shot in as he searches for that century of goals, just a couple of yards wide in the end. Soonchu, left corner of the penalty area here for Leicester, has the ball at his feet, plays it square to Ndidi. Big trouble here for Leicester as Demarai gets in the strike. It's well saved by Schmeichel. Leicester creating their own problems on that occasion. Flag now up for Jamie Vardy at the other end, but that could have easily been 1-0 to the home side.
It's a gilt-edged opportunity going to miss for Watford there, you have to say.
To Justin on the right-hand side. All the players look as though they've got really long surnames at the moment, but all their names have been replaced on their shirts by the Black Lives Matter slogan. Here come Watford now as a chance for them. Schmeichel with a massive save there to deny Ismail Assar, who was through on goal down the left-hand side. And it's a fantastic stop by the Leicester goalkeeper to keep it at 0-0.
Yeah, great little ball played down the side from Kapui. Saar makes that inside run in off the line.
74 minutes gone.
Oh.
Gray, nice takedown, edge of the penalty area, still Demarai. Gray, edge of the D, places to the right for Marco Brighton, who strikes it! Oh, he's hit the post, and it's gone out the other side. It's still in play for Yuri Tielemans. Leicester coming close. Demarai. Gray again, edge of the box for Maddison, who strikes this time. Great save by Ben Foster. Two excellent opportunities there for Leicester City within the space of 10 seconds. Brighton rattling the frame of the goal, and then Maddison bringing a top draw save from the Watford goalkeeper.
Oh, dearie me. What an impact that's been, by the way, from Demarai Gray since he's come on. He set that shot up for Mark Albrighton. I thought that had to go in. It's hit the inside of the post and somehow stayed out. And then Leicester do brilliantly well to regain possession. It gets fed back to Maddison. One touch with his right, shot with his left.
Evans coming forward here for the Foxes. Gray down the right-hand side. Chilwell wants it left, and again he's got so much space. Can he come up with the ball this time? Chilwell goes for goal! Oh, it's a fantastic strike! Ben Chilwell with what might be a 90th minute winner for the Foxes. What a hit that was! Ben Chilwell back with a bang. He's been gifted so much space on that side in the last couple of minutes, and he finally makes it count. In off the far post, no chance for Ben Foster. It's Watford 0, Leicester City 1.
Just see this game through somehow.
Holebas with this left-footed corner from the left. Swings it into the box now. It's going to drop inside the penalty. The overhead kick. Oh, it's been squeezed in. And Craig Dawson has forced in the equaliser in the 3rd minute of added time. And Watford may well have rescued themselves a point here. They were piling on the pressure in the last couple of minutes, and it's been forced in by the defender who was put into the team today. And deep into added time, it's 1-1.
Well, we all know who to blame then for that late equaliser, don't we, Gerry Taggart at Vicarage Road there?
Kiss of death, eh?
Certainly was, certainly was. But what positives do you think Leicester can take from that game? They obviously thought they'd won it so late on, and for Craig Dawson to come up with that and equalise, but there still must be an awful lot of positives that Leicester can take from.
I think that both the boys have, covered it. They controlled the game for large periods. Again, it's a strange game. It's a strange situation to be in, and the more the season goes on like this, and the more comfortable the players will become with a situation they find themselves in behind closed doors. But they had some really good passing moves, especially in the first half, second half. Even though I would say Watford probably started stronger in the first 5-10 minutes. But after that, Leicester sort of controlled the game. They finished the game well. There's no question mark over their fitness levels. So that's a big positive. Brendan will be really happy with that, with the amount of layoff that they've had. So those are probably the main, the fitness levels and this passing game. Obviously, Jamie was pretty quiet as a whole on Saturday. So that's a minor worry for him. That's probably, one of the reasons why you might have seen some changes tonight. Who knows? But as I say, there's still enough chances created there. Kasper Schmeichel was in great form as well, as I said, when he was called upon. We've seen there a couple of great saves from Watford when they had really good goal-scoring opportunities. Kasper took responsibility and made 2 great saves, so lots of positives.
Well, we've seen Leicester's team for this evening. Let's have a look then how the visitors, Brighton and Hove Albion, line up for the game at King Power Stadium this evening. I guess, Tony, the real big standout for Brighton and the player who got all the headlines in that win against Arsenal is Neil Maupay, of course, the striker.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. Yeah, listen, I'm a big fan of his. I thought it was a really good signing for Brighton. Was outstanding last season for Brentford. And he's a striker. He's a goal scorer. And I like the lad alongside him as well. I haven't seen lots and lots of him, but Aaron Connolly, I think he's a really good player as well. Like some real glimpses earlier in the season of what he can do as well. So I think we've got to be careful. As I said, this is a decent Brighton team. They will come here with confidence because of the victory that they got at the weekend. But Maupay definitely is the danger man. They've got Dale Stevens back in that midfield as well, who's a big player for them. And they're pretty much like Leicester, sort of a very regular back four as well. So, there's a few changes in the midfield and up front for Brighton, but not too many in that back four. Graham Potter sticking roughly to the sort of same back four that he had at the weekend. But there's some good players. Aaron Moyes a good player as well. Good players in this Brighton team. If Leicester, as I said earlier, they're slightly off their game or a couple of boys don't turn up, then this will become a really difficult game for Leicester.
One of the other things, when you look at that back four, Tony, you've got Webster, Dunk, Byrne. They are big units. They will cause problems with balls flighted into the box. We've just talked about Leicester conceding from a set piece. It shows you the importance of winning that first contact, because if you don't win it, invariably players sort of switch off and they follow the ball with their eyes and not with their bodies. And that's where teams like Brighton, as we've seen on Saturday, it was a short corner. It ricocheted about into the box and somehow they stumbled it over the line. So it's going to be...
That's like the Walsh Elliott Taggart three, don't it? Then three tags, like some big boys in there. But listen, it's a good point you're making about they're going to win the headers. But, the most important thing is that second ball, isn't it? As we saw with the corner, because the reaction and in Connolly and Maupay, you've got two really dynamic players, and if they're winning the header, the big boys up from corners and
Tony,
free kicks. You've got to watch that second ball.
The crucial thing is that we've not got to give any silly free kicks away in areas that can give them opportunities, because that is the key for me. Is we gave too many silly free kicks that just put us on the back foot, put us under pressure, and inevitably it came and it happened, and it was a last throw of the dice for Watford. But if we can, just cut out them little errors and mark properly and defend, because for the majority of that game we did defend pretty well. We got cut open a few times, so we've got to be careful. But going forward now, we've got a real positive counter-attacking team that can destroy anybody. But it can be undone with just a set piece, as we've just said.
Yes, get involved with us on the show, City on the Sofa, using hashtag LCFC. Send your pictures in, send your tweets in, send your thoughts in ahead of the game. We can have a look at another couple of pictures that you have sent in to the show here of all the fans sitting at home. This is Tracy saying, ready for the football with my princess, hashtag LCFC. And Gary Johnson says, we're all set for tonight's game in the fan wall. Gerry, just looking at that, they've obviously got their wall set up at home, haven't they? They've decorated the house, they've kitted the house out with the Leicester City gear.
Yeah, fantastic, isn't it? We've already touched on it. People just trying to make, the best of a bad situation. as we've said before, it's back, but not as we know it. But it is back, and something is better than nothing. So, fans all around the country will be doing the same and trying, to put a positive spin on, well, it's not a dire situation, but a situation that, we're not used to seeing.
Going back to that Brighton starting 11, Gerry, we talked about the danger that they may pose from set pieces, but in open play as well against Arsenal, the winner that they scored, the link-up play between Maupay and Connolly was quite brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I totally agree with TC. Connolly is somebody who sort of burst on the scene earlier on the season, and straight away you could just see he's got that little spark in his play. He's very, very sharp in and around the box. He's always alive to second balls. We seen that interchange in play between him and Maupay, how well that works. And, that is a part of, their game that they're going to be looking to exploit with the overs, the running off the ball, and that interchange, that link-up play. So it's going to be very, very important that Johnny Evans, Marshalls, that very, very young back four alongside him, and make sure that they keep that kind of interplay between those two to a minimum.
Tony, obviously during your playing days,
I was going to say what might be interesting, because I'm looking at this from a striker's point of view, and it'd be interesting for me. I know we've looked at the formation, we've hinted at what we think might be the formation, but there is a possibility that both teams could play two up front, because Leicester have got Iheanacho and Vardy, and Brighton, as we've just spoke about, have got Connolly and Maupay, who are more than capable of playing up front. So it'd be really interesting to see whether they play as a front two, or whether they play as a front three or whatever. But if they do play a front two, then that will give our back four certainly a few problems to think about, because they're two really, really quick, dynamic players.
Well, during your playing days, obviously, partnerships were a huge part for you, weren't they? Whether it was here at Leicester City with Emile Heskey, of course, or at your other clubs with other players. But that link-up between Maupay and Connolly for the winning goal against Arsenal, they can't have had too much time on the pitch together at times this season, but it almost seemed instinctive between the two of them, didn't it?
It did, yeah. I mean, it's an old trick for players. The little over. Sometimes you just know that your partner's behind you and you lead the ball. Other times the partner calls you and you over it, and then you just go for the return. When it comes off like it did at the weekend, it looks sensational, and that was a really, really, really good goal. But I mean, the two boys like Walshy and Taggart will tell you that if you're playing against one, if those two boys were playing against one centre forward, then I don't think they would have too many sleepless nights too much about it, because you always believe you can manage the one player. But when there's a partnership up there, a pairing, it does change it. The dynamics of a back four, if you like, and it does give defenders more to think about. I've always said that you should play a front two, and then you work the rest of the team around it. We did it back in the 90s. We played a back three, and we played five across the midfield, and we played me and Heskey up front. And I think it always gives teams, it gives you more options going forward, and more, just as importantly for the defenders, when they get on the ball, they've got two options up front rather than the one.
I think Tony, that little bit of interplay we've seen there between Maupay and Connolly, I'm not saying it's a dying art, but because so many teams play with one centre forward, you don't really see that. Whereas, back in the 80s and the 90s, it was all over the place, those little overs and, round the corners and stuff like that there. But because most teams play with one centre forward in the modern day, then you don't see it. So defenders aren't used to what's happening. When opposition forwards get towards their back line, they're not used to seeing this kind of interplay, and that's what probably was part of the reason why it caused Arsenal a problem.
That's why Connolly has earned the right to play tonight. Same as Demarai Gray in a sense. They both came on and did really well, so they're both starting. It shows you now how like you said, that into that combination play that Brighton, when they got that winner, was terrific, and he's earned the right to play in the team. So Connolly it's going to be a tough night if they do play the two up front, but we'll see. I mean, it looked to me like a 4-2-3-1, or in today's modern game, it's in and out of possession. The systems change, and it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out tonight. It could be a cracking game, this.
Well, Brendan Rodgers, I'm sure, has done his homework on the Seagulls and Brighton and Hove Albion. So let's get his thoughts then, as he was speaking via Zoom in his press conference.
I was pleased in the game. Of course, I don't think there's any team at this period and having had so long off will be right at, have the rhythm of the game as what they might have been earlier on the season. But I was really, really pleased with the fitness levels of the players. As the game grew in the second half, the intensity of the game was still there, the running ability was still there. So I was pleased with that aspect, and of course that got us in front late on in the game. So it felt like a defeat, of course, when you concede so late on in the manner, because throughout the game I thought in terms of crosses and balls into the box, we dealt with it really, really well. However, there's learning in it, so we just have to be better in that situation going forward. And like I say, it was nearly 3 points, but we take our point and learn from it.
Good man. It's 3 games in 12 days for you. What does that mean in terms of team selection and how you're going to have to use the squad and change things a little bit? Yeah,
it's just manage it. Of course, you never want to make too many changes, but of course, we played Saturday, and obviously the Tuesday's a quick turnaround. So we just need to assess the freshness of the team, just to ensure we have that energy in the game. And we just take each game really.
Brendan Rodgers there, speaking ahead of the clash between Leicester and Brighton in the Premier League here at King Power Stadium this evening. Of course, there'll be no fans here, but you'll all be cheering the Foxes along, I'm sure, at home. You've sent us some more of your pictures, so we can have another look at a couple of those ones now. Jessica Newbon on Twitter says she's ready for the match, with a little fox emoji and a blue heart emoji there. And Tilly Dog says that she'll be joining Daddy shortly, cheering on the Foxes. She's got her kit that's been sent to her by LCFC, that's been sent to all the season ticket holders and members as part of the Then, Now, Again campaign to get you guys at home involved and creating your own atmosphere. Gerry, just hearing from Brendan Rodgers there, we talked about the confidence and the lessons, I guess, that Leicester will have learned from that game with Watford, and I guess then the lessons that they'll have learned from Brighton's win over Arsenal as well on Saturday.
Yeah, and we've just seen a couple of instances of that. We've just talked about, the interplay between the front two, the set piece goal that, and obviously Leicester, conceded that last gasp equaliser on Saturday. So there are areas of concern. But again, he also talked about, the play, the style of play. They dealt well with crosses as well, which they did do. There's obviously areas where Brendan will look to improve. There's no doubt about that. As a manager, he wants to win things, and he wants to win things with Leicester City. So he will not give up the ghost until, he's winning things, basically. So there's always room for improvement. But as a first game back, against a really difficult team in Watford who are obviously fighting for their lives, then, it wasn't a bad point. It should have been 3, but they took a point. They didn't lose a game. Yes, they were disappointed to concede that late goal, but it wasn't disastrous. So plenty to learn from and plenty to go into this game with.
Walshy, one thing Gerry said earlier, he talked about Johnny Evans, the importance that he has in this team, and alongside him it is a very youthful three of James Justin, Kaglar Soyuncu and Ben Chilwell. So how important a role is it for Johnny Evans, do you think, this evening?
It always is for a player of his stature, Johnny Evans. He's the main, not just player but voice in that team, from the back. And it's great that you've got James Justin at his side. I think that's going to bring him on a lot with the experience that Evans has got. That he'll certainly pass that down to Justin, and that's great to see. And look, they've formed a very good partnership. Of you always look at centre backs as a partnership and how they play together, how they read each other, how when one of them is going for a header, the other one gets round. Just simple things, and they seem to have gelled very, very well, and they've got a very good understanding. There was once or twice at Watford that worried me slightly, where there was gaps where they kind of both stepped up too high. But these are small errors for what he gives. But going back to the Johnny Evans, he's been outstanding for me. He was definitely Player of the Year, up until the lockdown, without a shadow of a doubt. He's just been excellent and he just seems to stroll through games. He just seems to just read everything so well, and are so cool under pressure. He's got a great temperament, and he's just a real asset to any team. He's the best centre-back, I think, in that Premier League this year. I really feel as strongly as that. I do. And it's great that we've got him, and it's interesting to see that this lineup that we've got today against Brighton is a different. When I hear Brendan speaking, he speaks so much. The more I hear him, the more I like him. He just seems to speak a lot of sense and understanding of his players. All Brighton obviously is not playing tonight, and yet he knows that it's a Tuesday night straight after a Saturday. As you get a little bit older, as we did, Gerry, Tuesday became not an easy game to play if the fitness levels weren't quite right. It's a little bit different these days, with the conditioning of these players. But when I look at this team, the only one thing I'm looking at is, are we going to have the quality of crosses coming into the box tonight? All Brighton obviously is a great link with Vardy, but Vardy was a little bit on his own on Saturday, and that's where you can see now at home. Mendy, I would say, will be sitting, and Didi will be given a licence to get a bit further forward with the insurance of Mendy behind him, probably as a sitting holding midfielder, I would say. But let's see. It's like I say, we're set for a good game, and it's just so vital that we just get 3 points and get set off with this league position, because we don't want to be looking over our shoulder, and unfortunately a lot of fans are doing that at the minute, and this could be a real big win.
Yeah, huge game this evening.
I think there's a couple of players that you didn't mention that I think, like big games for them. I mean, James Justin, I know the boys, I didn't know much about him. I know he came from Luton, but, I was impressed with him at the weekend. He did well. And the other one as well that I'll be watching really closely is Demarai Gray, because I think for a long time we've been talking about his talent, how good he is, and he's never really seemed to have been able to nail down that place in the team. And he came on, he was fantastic when he came on at the weekend. He thoroughly deserves to start tonight. But you know what it's like, boys, you don't want to be known as a super sub, someone who comes on 15, 20 minutes and changes the game. You want to be a regular in that team. And he's been given the chance now, and he's not had the chance because all Brighton and Harvey Barnes, and other players, Perez, have been so good, in the early part of the season. But he's got his chance now, Demarai Gray.
His level of consistency has got to be better,
and he's
Tom.
got a chance to try and make it his own position.
Well, it's a huge game at both ends of the table, of course, here at King Power Stadium this evening. We can get the thoughts now of Andy Naylor, the Brighton and Hove Albion reporter for The Athletic. He says that Saturday's win over Arsenal will give them huge confidence coming into this game.
Well, it's clearly a big lift for them. So important, really, coming back, having conceded the first goal, to come from behind. Graham Potter pointed out afterwards how difficult that is in the Premier League, to come from behind and win. And in fact, we highlighted in The Athletic that Brighton had been behind 1-0 25 times at the Amex since coming back into the Premier League without winning. So it was a real turnaround for them to produce that late winner from Neil Maupay.
How do you think it'll affect them going into the game with Leicester? Because for Leicester, could it maybe be a good thing that Brighton won that game? They probably expended a lot of energy, and it was quite an emotional victory in the end, wasn't it? Is that something that maybe could take away from their performance on Tuesday, or will it do the opposite?
Well, they certainly would have expended a lot of energy to get the result. I mean, a very good example of that was Yves Bissouma in midfield, who almost ran himself to exhaustion. He was taken off in injury time, and ironically, it was actually Alexis McAllister, his replacement, who started the move for the goal. They were. But Graham Potter, I'm sure, will use the squad. I mean, he used all 5 subs against Arsenal, so I think we will see a few changes from Brighton, and he'll make use of what is quite a deep squad in terms of they're being quite level. Brighton could field 2 teams out of their squad, and there wouldn't be an awful lot to choose between them.
Thanks to Andy Naylor there from The Athletic for his thoughts ahead of the game this evening. Let's have a look at a couple more of your setups at home, cheering the Foxes on. Unfortunately, you're not here at King Power Stadium this evening. 13 Apparel says, when things come in threes, it's not always that bad. Watching Leicester, drinking ale and a wrestling-related glass. And Ian Davidson says, ordinarily, I would be at King Power Stadium with this young man just behind me. but it's not far away now. They're making the most of it at home on the sofa, cheering on Leicester City. Gerry, quickly before we do go, obviously we're nearing kick-off now, around about 10 minutes to go until kick-off. What are your final thoughts there? We heard from Andy Naylor. He said that, yes, that win against Arsenal might have taken a lot out of that Brighton team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, Leicester don't have to change too much. I think, obviously, in a game of this magnitude, with the conditions that the players are under, it's important that they start the game sharp, properly, gain control, get control of the passing game, ball retention, and get Jamie Vardy in the game nice and early. That's one thing we didn't see on Saturday. Was him, he was pretty quiet, Jamie, I have to say. There was the odd, glimpse of him here and there. Let's get Vardy in the game. Let's get him on the goal sheet. Get him his 100th league goal. And I'm sure if we do all those things, easier said than done, I'm sure, then Leicester will win this game. Yes, Brighton will carry a threat. There's no doubt about that. But we've just spoke about the experience of Johnny Evans. Hopefully, that will see Leicester through the 90 minutes and 3 points on the board.
I wonder if Brighton...
Sorry, Walsh, I'll just have to stop you there. If any of you guys listening in or watching in at home want to get any of your thoughts in, please do so. Use the hashtag LCFC. If you want to listen to the game, you can do on LCFC Radio. Our commentary team of Chris Parrott and Matt Elliott will guide you through the 90 minutes. Unfortunately, you will lose us here on social media, but you can watch us on LCFC TV. We'll be talking throughout the full game, and we'll be back on social media at full time as well. But before Leicester's first game with Watford, we ask you, the fans, what message you wanted to give to the players. And there was one thing that shone through from all of you.
Hi Leicester City fans, this is Gerry. Thank you for all your kind messages. I hope...
Happening at Leicester City again.
Hello lads, greetings from Peru. Just wanted to thank you for all the effort and wish you very good luck. I am proud to be a Leicester fan and hope we can end the season in the best way as possible.
No walking down Filbert Way for us today.
I'm here to wish you some good luck in your upcoming matches.
I know you're not going to be there at the stadium, but we know you're going to be watching at home cheering us on.
No matter the result, we'll always be proud of our club, the players, the staff, the manager. So go out there, do what you've done so many times before.
We'll make you proud on the pitch, don't worry about that.
We're all in this together. Come on, Leicester.
One thing that I know we can promise you is that Foxes never quit, and we never will.
With you then, with you now, and we will be with you again. Good luck, boys.
Come on, you Foxes!
Come on, Leicester!
Come on, Leicester, come on. Come on, boys, come on, do me proud.
Thank you so much for all your messages of support. We really appreciate it. Now we want to finish the job off, give you something to celebrate at home, and then one day, when it's all safe and it's all good, then we can celebrate together. Look forward to seeing you all.
Come on, Leicester City from Thailand!
Come on, Leicester! Come on, Leicester!
Come on, Leicester.
Come on, Leicester City!
Come on, Fox. I'm always with you.
So keep cheering for us, and we'll do everything we can to make you proud.
For you then, for you now, for you again.
Yes, welcome back to City on the Sofa here for this Premier League clash between Leicester City and Brighton and Hove Albion at King Power Stadium. The players are pretty much getting themselves sorted, Tony, Cottee, and I guess these types of times just before kick-off, this is when you'll hear the crowd, isn't it? This is when you'll start to feel the atmosphere, but those players won't be doing that now. So